I'm your faculty at Quantic and a subject matter specialist in entrepreneurship and leadership. Before Quantic, I've been a professor in B schools in the area of entrepreneurship, leadership, strategy, and global business. And I've been engaged at various universities in the United States and around the globe. I was at SUNY, State University of New York, University of Alabama, and most recently at IIT Delhi, I visited. So IIT Delhi is my alma mater where I had done my undergraduate in engineering and the leading institute. It is also leading institute for successful entrepreneurs. And more than 15, 16 unicorns have come out of that institution alone, and the number is counting. More interestingly, I've had a spell as an entrepreneur in the domain of entrepreneurial learning. So I had founded iSeed, a startup institution that designed and conducted several programs in entrepreneurship. We mentored many early and advanced stage startups and helped build the entrepreneurial ecosystem that was back in 2013-14. A lot of what you see today was beginning to happen in a more organized fashion. You would have heard of the Quantic Moonshot initiative through email or Slack, and that's why you're here for this session. So today we would go into some basics of this competition, and I will give you a layout in the first maybe 15 to 20 minutes, and after that we can go into any free flowing interaction with you having any questions I would address. In fact, most of today's session should go into it so that you go back with some core understanding to participate in this competition. And besides that, I would also apprise you of some plans that we have, whether through any kind of mentoring support for the qualifying teams, or if you have any interest on certain topics which would help you with your idea, taking it forward. So we could organize sessions on that with our own experts within Quantic, as well as we could have some invited guests to participate and fill in some of those areas. So both are possibilities, and you being proactively asking for any of those sessions on certain topics, we would have an overall view, and then we will determine and we will communicate to you. And this would happen over a period of maybe next year or so until the final event takes place, which is in 2023. I'll just tell you about that. So let me first pull up the presentation. Can you all see the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. So even though today's topic is validating opportunity for pitching in conjunction with the introduction to Moonshot, but after yesterday's session, we felt maybe we should not go into the topic on pitching or validating opportunity as much today, because most of our time would get consumed in our interaction. That's what we're expecting. But if I can give you a sense of what we can perhaps do here for general thoughts on whatever you're working on, because otherwise one-on-one would happen when we help you with preparing some pitches, right, for your startup idea, for your venture idea. That would be more customized to your idea itself. But we would still want to address certain topics. So today we thought we will give it some focus, at least talk about pitching, but I think I will hold that. So it'll mostly be today for about introduction to Moonshot. You would have received this in your communication, this link with this video. So I'll just play that for you, and then we would go into talking about various rounds of this competition and what are the eligibility aspects and what is the award. Also give you a little sense of the context. So let's start with first what this Quantic Moonshot is about. So this video. I hope you can hear it. If you don't, please communicate in the comment section. Great. So it's short and sweet. And I'm sure you would have seen it, or you can see it on your own, but it gives you a flavor. And that's what we would expand on in the next few slides. So what is Moonshot? It's an entrepreneurial pitching competition for Quantic EMBA capstone students only. And there would be two kinds of awards, one grand prize for the winning team, and also a People's Choice Award. So, and I'll dwell on that a little bit in the following slide. And there are three rounds. The first round involves a faculty selected cohort finalist round, which would essentially shortlist 20 ventures, 20 ideas, 20 projects. And in round two, there'll be peer voting where the semi-finalists would be chosen, 5 of them, to be put in the final round. And in the final round, which is round 3, there'll be a panel of judges consisting of Quantic leadership, also the VCs, and any significant player in the entrepreneurial ecosystem, which could help us make a judgment on the quality of the startup idea, and then the prizes would be announced. So the broad context for this Moonshot competition comes from one, that there's a large number of EMBA capstone projects which have been entrepreneurial in nature. And I can tell you that recently, when I was evaluating the project presentation, the capstone project presentation, and this was live presentation, right, by 4 teams, 2 individuals and 2 groups. They were all entrepreneurial in nature. So increasingly, a larger percentage of capstone projects have turned out to be entrepreneurial in nature. Or I would say in some cases, they have been intrapreneurial, if you're familiar with the term. That means some new initiative, some project, some innovative project taken up by companies themselves. So there have been those cases as well. So due to this increasing number of entrepreneurial projects, there was a desire felt to encourage, support, and also being a part of the journey. So for Quantic, Moonshot offers a way to invest in our students' future. So we want to be a part of this journey. And so there is one specific outcome of this, but there are some implicit ones. And that is something for your conjecture. But I would say that if you are a part of this journey, whether you go from one round to the other, or eventually you become a winner, whichever be the case for any one of you, for any of your team, there would still be a learning process which would help you. So essentially, our goal is to keep your entrepreneurial ideas and they have potential, to keep it alive and keep it active, and also to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem around Quantic. So it's an institution, and as we get to hear from several of your feedback, that it is fairly disruptive in nature, and it also has an entrepreneurial history of itself. Therefore, the desire to build an entrepreneurial ecosystem where several ideas can see its growth and get to some logical end of success. So that is the broad intent, and that is the broad context behind Quantic Moonshot. So in round one, uh, you'd have first that it is only for executive MBA, as I said earlier, and you would have to opt into this competition. And essentially, there's a deadline before which or on that day you will have to opt in. So in your team, everyone in your team has to opt in, not leaving anyone behind. Uh, it could not be a partial opt-in unless you have obtained some sort of a permission. It's possible that any of the within a team, couple of members may not want to participate in this process, and especially this is true about cohorts, the groups which have already graduated, and this is also open for them. Uh, so if that happens, you at least have to get uh, some sort of a communication from them, some sort of approval or permission that you could take the project forward. Um, there'll be winners. There'll be 20 winners in the first round, and from most likely one from each cohort. And you have an understanding of what that cohort is. Essentially, those who join together with you, and even though you do not get to see them physically in any physical setting, but you know, and you are connecting through a network. So those who have joined and are likely to finish with the same deadline, so they become your cohort. So there'll be 20 teams chosen, most likely one from each cohort. And that will mostly be true about cohort which are right now either haven't worked on their capstone project or are likely to work in the coming months. And after the selection of those 20 teams or individual, it could be consisting of team of one, the winners will be assigned on an academic mentor, and their main purpose is to help and guide in developing their pitch, which would be used for entering into the final round. So there will be some I won't say hand holding, but some support which would help you really nail down your pitch to be more effective and be considered for further consideration. So in this round, 20 semi-finalists, they will all create an elevator pitch like video, and this would be going into the Quantic Moonshot landing page, and you would also get some professional help from the media team in Quantic for this, in case if you need it. In round two, uh, the students get engaged. Those who are also participating, right, who have been shortlisted, and the team members. So each of them would have a voting right, and these students will be the participating cohorts, and they will make the top three choices of those who appear on the shortlisted uh, landing page, right, of Quantic. So they'll be voting for the five cohorts, five teams, and then those uh, five teams out of those 20 uh, would move into the finals. So the 20 first round of shortlisting will be done by faculty. The second round will be done by your students, right, who are part of the cohort group. And top five projects will move on to the finals. In the final round, essentially it would be happening in a live slash virtual event, and most likely in I think it would be in an executive MBA conference, a global conference, which could be happening in any part of the world. And it would consist of a panel of judges, and they could be consisting of Quantic leadership, VC partners, and various influencers. And the five finalists will have their elevator pitch shown at that event. And it would also be visible and can be experienced by the panel, audience, and also virtual attendees. And out of this event would be one competition winner, and a People's Choice winner. And that will be announced on that very same day of the live event. Now, what is the eligibility for this? Essentially, the top scorers, only students who have scored 5 out of 5 in both projects and presentations, they are the one eligible to opt in for round one voting. No, actually, you can opt in, but when you score 5 out of 5, you come under consideration, right? Only if you have that. The second eligibility criteria is the policy compliance, that you as a student have committed no major violation of any of your Quantic's plagiarism policy, or you have not, even to a small extent, right, more than once, only then you become eligible. So policy compliance is another criteria. And thirdly, the if you have opted out, that means you have not opted in, then you also become disqualified to participate in this. So people will have to explicitly opt in for participation. The other eligibility is about the conduct compliance, that you as a student have committed no major violation of code of conduct, and you're eligible therefore for the moonshot competition. And number 5 eligibility is your deadlines. So in order to be eligible for Moonshot, you will have to submit all outstanding projects and presentations no later than, sorry, uh, no later than final day of the scheduled curriculum. So you have to stay on the deadline. Students who submit projects and presentations after this date, that is in some way late, they will not be eligible for it. So you have to keep up with the time. I know that for various reasons, somebody may uh, delay the submission, but then that makes you ineligible for the competition. And finally, the legality and the ethical aspect. And this essentially has 3 components. In case if you become the winning team, and there is a possibility that you could get participation from Quantic as an investor alongside other investors, right? So that possibility would be happening only if one, that your idea, your venture is not a potential competitor to Quantic or a related entity, and number two, that you are potentially not in a conflict with the state or the federal laws, or number three, that your idea is consistent with Quantic's mission as an institution of higher education. So these composite of these 3 criteria could make you eligible or ineligible, uh, whether you meet this legal slash ethical criteria or not. Now, what is the award? One is a competition winner, and that would be a grand prize, right? And uh, the winning team will receive a cash prize towards their business as cash or investment, either of these two. Uh, and the cash, it's your choice whether cash or investment. If a team wants only cash, they can walk out with the cash if you're a winning team, and distribute it among the team members. Or you could opt for investment. Then some of those eligibility criteria apply, and only then the Quantic would participate with certain terms, which would become known, and we would give that information to you. So within those terms, you could have Quantic give you that same amount as an investment, and the the magnitude of this prize would be, I would say, quite like any other institution which is actively uh, in this space of entrepreneurship, right? And who are doing similar such events or competitions. So it would be somewhere in that range. The exact amount we are still deliberating in our among our colleagues, and that would be known, uh, and you would be informed accordingly. Then the second award is the People's Choice Award, and it'll be called People's Choice Award, and it'll be determined by the amount of shares or likes that you have received on students' project, a social post. So basically, even for the public, you could actually get some of those shares and likes, and that would be counted towards the People's Choice Award. And the winner of this PCA will win a free trip to the next Executive MBA Global Conference and will be featured in a blog post. So both the winners, as I said, would be announced during our live pattern. Now, what is the uh, evaluation and the voting? When you vote as a team, as a student for your fellow teams who are participating, then these are broadly the criteria which you could use and a scoring system of this nature, where you could look at feasibility and score how feasible is um, that venture idea in the scale of 1 to 5, how feasible or how viable. I think you're familiar with that term. And in case if that familiarity in any case is needed to be further expanded, then we could have some session to discuss that, some webinar. So feasibility, maybe in fact we are talking that we will have a session which would mostly focus on what are the criteria, how do you judge a venture, how would faculty judge, or how would likely investors judge, right? So broadly speaking, these 5 6 criteria which are listed here: feasibility, fundability, innovativeness, that component. Where is the innovative aspect in its business model? Do you have an innovative business model? Do you have an innovative revenue model? Do you have an innovative product or process? So broadly, I think most of the innovative aspect comes in these areas. Also, how impactful is your venture? So, how have you impacted various stakeholders, whether consumers and the environment, the sustainability aspects, the government, etc., etc. Also, you can look at, and we would look at the quality aspect of the venture. What is the overall quality of the pitch and project? So pitching is very central, because uh, in the short time, how qualitatively you come across, right? It would be a dense experience. Nevertheless, it should come across as an effective communication so that people can really tune into it. So I think the judgment of quality would come in there, and also how capable you are. So you have an idea, but is there any distortion? Can you hear me clearly so far?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
perfectly.
I'm getting a little distortion at my end. Okay, hopefully. So capability, I think, how competent is your team, and how well have skills gaps been addressed? So looking at this aspect, capability aspect, one can also evaluate. So students could use that for their voting, for their other teams, other teammates, not your own team, but other teams other than your team. And also broadly speaking, faculty or anybody sitting as a judge in the panel would likely look at these. Now, these are the opt-in dates for various cohorts. And if you're not familiar with this terminology, uh, and I have heard that many people don't necessarily remember, what number it is. So here is something here which essentially tells you what period you are involved in the class and what would your cohort be called. And depending on which cohort you are in, you would have opt-in dates. So you have to opt opt in to this competition before that. So, for example, EMBA group 24 to 28. So these are the ones who have you all have graduated before. Your opt-in date is December 15th. So a survey would have gone to you, and you have to opt in before December 15th. The group 30 onwards, 30 to 31, you will have the opt-in dates probably happening in March, actually in December itself, but you will get the results by March, right? So uh, you would know in your cohort group whether you are going to be shortlisted or your winner to go into the next round. So for each of these cohort group, you have opt-in dates. You also know your capstone due dates, and there's an announcement date. And some of this information we would pass on to you, or you could ask us in a question form, so we can provide necessary clarity in this matter. And one aspect which I forgot to mention, so hopefully you would have your Quantic email ID. So when you vote in round two, you'd have to use that quantic.edu email ID. If you do not have it, or if you have forgotten, then that is what would be collated for any kind of voting consideration going into the future, right? From that point on. So that's what I would look forward to questions. That's broadly what Quantic Moonshot competition is. I have spelled out several aspects, but if you have any questions, you can ask. And we would require some sort of input from you uh, so that we can design some of our webinars. Our whole purpose is that one aspect, a concrete aspect, is that a winner, a deserving winner, gets filtered through these processes and eventually is given that prize and that recognition at the end, and that they continue their journey if they so choose to, and we would hope that they would. But the other broader reason is also to bring in this sort of a forward going energy, because many of your ideas have great entrepreneurial potential, and you would know that. So we could use some of our discussion in these webinars to address various aspects of venture building, or any of the stages that the venture is in, even about pitching, significantly on pitching. But we could look at a number of aspects. Depending on where you are, you would be the best judge which point of where does your project stand. And we could talk on any of these and design our webinars in that manner. Okay, this video essentially gives you a natural setting as to where do ideas emerge from. So we could talk about that, and you'd be able to identify. So I'm just taking you through some of the frameworks without going into it, and where we get to understand some of these distinctions, because when you are pitching, you yourself must be familiar, many of you, and also the ecosystem players also know about these terminologies, and they know these distinctions. Therefore, we could discuss these. We could use various frameworks. So why don't I just wind up here? Let's have the questions. Why don't you ask your first question?
So the first question to you is the funding secured, or is this an ongoing process? And two, if we're located outside of the States, would the disbursement be in any form of currency or of your choosing? Thank you.
This is annual competition, and the prize amount is not yet written in stone, but as I said, it will be a respectable amount for any institution. And the transaction part, in which currency, I think since it's in the given financial system, it's very easy to transact the amount, with the necessary compliance. So I don't think currency is any barrier.
Oh, that's cool. That's quite innovative.
Right.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Let's have other questions. Anything that you have in mind? Okay, so let me.
I have a question, please. Sorry. I have a question.
Yes.
In my group, I have a participant who's from another cohort. How can I say that? She paused the EMBA because she had a situation, and she started again and came with us for the capstone project. Is it all right, or are we eliminated because she didn't hand it in at the time of her cohort, at the due date of her cohort?
Okay. So I think largely your team member has to be from your own cohorts. So there's no intermingling or shuffling of the cohort. If they have already been evaluated or they have been in the system, so there's no shuffling of that nature. Your team only can apply, and few or more members or all members can be a part of it. Does that address your question?
Yeah, kind of. So yeah, we'll just consider that she transferred to our cohort, and then all right. Thank you.
That could be an issue there, right? But you can always ask that question in Slack or somewhere, and to get a better clarification. But I think this is what it should be, broadly speaking.
All right,
Okay,
thanks.
Sure. That was
Dr. Mishra,
yes, please.
one question. Sorry, thank you for this. I just wanted to ask about the 5 out of 5 eligibility for round 1. I'm not too sure what it means that you as an individual had to have had 5 out of 5 for both projects to be able to vote for other projects or to be able to even partake in the competition. I don't know what it means.
Okay. So it'll have to be consistently 5 out of 5 in the project as well as in the presentation. No exceptions to that.
Right. So for anyone to partake, they had to get 5 out of 5 as a team for both presentation and business plan.
That's correct for both.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
And Dr. Mishra, on the same lines, so if the team consists 3 of them, all 3 of them have to meet the eligibility which you talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
Everyone has to meet the eligibility, and we would have to discuss it among ourselves in case if a person, and you can maybe throw in that question for us, and you'll get an answer. In case if a person is not participating in the competition and that person had any of these eligibility issue, how would that work? I don't think.
That's my question too, because when we form teams, we don't ask the members whether they are 5 out of 5. We just form teams out of mutual interest. So this would be unfair if one person has a 5 out of 5 and the other 2 have no 5 out of 5. Then the whole team is eliminated.
No, we're talking about your 5 out of 5 in project, right? In the written part and in the presentation.
Exactly, but when we form the capstone project group, we don't ask the individual members what is your score in the projects.
Okay, so if you could tune into what I said before, you cannot, you would not be forming a new team or on a new idea. The idea would be coming from your capstone project. Is that part clear?
So the project should have a 5 out of 5, you mean?
Yes.
Not any other project.
Not any other project.
Oh, okay. I think, Dr. Mishra, I think that was the understanding you and I had. So you are saying that it is not the individual course projects you are talking about. You're talking about the final capstone project, which is a group project. That should be rated 5 out of 5.
Now, that is my understanding. Okay. But since these questions are very creative, let me say yes for now. But in case if there is any discrepancy, I will communicate to the whole group. Okay, or you can ask that question. But
Right,
as far
I
as
have
I
a question
remember,
as well.
yes.
Yeah, Dr. Rashad,
Okay.
I just wanted to say I managed to sit. Hello,
Yes.
wonderful. I managed to sit on the previous Moonshot presentation as well, and just trying to build it in. So it's my understanding that you submit the capstone. If you get 5 out of 5, then you progress to become eligible for the next part, because so it's an iterative process. So what actually happens is we've just got to focus on submitting the capstone and achieving 5 out of 5. Then you become selected for the academic peer review. There is another review, which means that all of the projects can just be voted on by your peers, and you can go into another competition later. But the academic one is everybody will have to be eligible if they get 5 out of 5. At that point, then having opted in, then they continue. If everybody's opted in and you continue and you're selected, you get assigned an academic mentor. You then work with them on creating the next thing. So, and then you iterate out and you get chosen as a semi-finalist. So I think my query here today is in terms of the timing, because my fundamental concern is so we're putting together a business plan. I think in most cases this is going to be either towards a startup or towards a fairly new business, not a new business kind of division. The timing delay between when you submit the project, so we'll be submitting our capstone ideas. I'm in a cohort in February. We'll submit our capstone in January. The release of funds or potential release of funds is almost 2023.
That's correct.
So my challenge here is obviously, within a cohort, you're part of an academic group, but our academic unification and participation will end years before we find out if there's any funding from the Moonshot project. So we'll actually have all gone our separate ways and be doing other things. In that essence, so I just wanted to see if we can just get a little bit more precision in terms of the timeline and amount of money, because I think it's a delayed funding concept that is potentially 10 months down the line from when one graduates. It's quite a lot of time to be sitting there for waiting for kind of an investment or a prize.
Who exactly is speaking right now? But thank you so much for clarifying earlier. I think that was top of my mind was the timeline on all this. Is the funding actually secured, or is this happening kind of online as we go? And I think to many interested parties in founding something, whether it's a company or whatever type of entity, I think it's interesting that this is happening without that in place. And of course, we all try to do it as we go. But I think for people who are not located in the States, it doesn't make much sense to participate in a program. And of course, each person can choose. Participate in a program where we're spending hours and hours on it, and we don't really know if this is actually a viable moonshot competition or not.
Can I just jump
in?
Because
let me first address it. First of all, this is optional. This is not a part of your curriculum. Okay, this is not something you're required to do. This is an optional event.
I get it's optional. Everything is optional in life, but I'm saying, why start a competition without the funding in place?
No, no, we are not saying that there would be a prize money. Whatever 2 awards are, there is prize money. There is no condition on that, except what is that amount?
It's not. It's there would be or there is. Would have, could have, should have.
There is. There is. The specificity is not. If anyone wants to know what would that amount be, that amount we have deliberated, but we have yet not determined exactly what that. But it will be respectable enough and comparable to any other institution which is offering such funding.
And let's make it transparent. Let's make the amount transparent.
It would be made transparent as the decision happens. You'll be communicated about this.
And we should all receive the information at the same time.
Can you hear?
See, we
Sorry.
just got going. It's very, that's why it is a kickoff, right? It's a kickoff. Some of these aspects would be understood or the decision will be taken and communicated to you as we go along. Okay, who else has question?
Dr. Mishra?
Yes.
Respectfully, we graduated, my cohort graduated June, July this year, and obviously we hadn't heard about it, and it wasn't in the cards for the Moonshot competition. So we had no idea that, because we got a 5 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5, which now disqualifies us for partaking, whereas the students now know that there's a Moonshot competition and it's something to work towards to get 5 out of 5 on both projects. So I was wondering if there would be some kind of understanding or a way that the previous cohorts that have already graduated can bring their projects up to that 5 out of 5 mark in order to possibly partake. We had no idea about the Moonshot. I know it's new, it's great, fantastic. It would be nice to partake.
So, as far as I understand, there is no such consideration except that your cohort can participate if they meet the eligibility criteria. Even though you have graduated in the past, you could still participate, and there will be a choice from among your cohort to take them to the next round. Beyond that, whether you can bring up your grade, I think those criteria, those things are much larger in scope, and that would require a big discussion, right, and deliberation. So you can, if you like, you can put that question for consideration, but I would not be able to tell you which way things will go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'll ask about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question.
Hi. Yes, please. Can you identify yourself, please, also?
Hi, it's Delan. I'd like to know if it is possible, because my purpose of joining Quantic was I already had a business idea before joining, and I wanted to acquire further information so that I would be able to more effectively start my venture. So now that I'm almost finished with my MBA studies, is it possible for me, as someone who has a pre-existing idea and a business plan almost complete, to submit independently of a group my individual idea? Because my understanding is this, as some of the other people have mentioned, if we are all in different parts of the world, like my cohort and the people I'm working with in my group are in different parts of the world and in different time zones, it is most likely not going to be feasible for us to work together as a working, functioning business, at least in the beginning stages. So for me, it makes more sense to submit my idea, my business plan individually, irrespective and irregardless of my group project. So technically I would be doing 2 times the work, but then at least I know that I'm guaranteed that should my idea be chosen, I would be able to actually move with it and not have to ask 4 other people for their say so on whether or not I could move forward with my idea.
Okay, Dylan, if I say your name correctly, if your team, let's say if other team members do not want to go forward and participate in the competition, and it's only you who wants to do it, your idea, your venture into the competition would still be around your capstone project, right? That's what you would be pitching. If you're talking about an individual coming up with altogether a different idea and making that a part of the competition, I think that is out of consideration within the scope of this competition. I hope that addresses.
Okay, I see. So then my further question would be then, so if, like I said, I already have a fully formed idea and I've already done a lot of research in terms of making this idea become a reality, then would it not be a smart idea for me to just not do a group whatsoever and work entirely on my own?
Yeah, going forward, in case, I don't know which stage of the program you are in now, the MBA program, but let's say if your project is still due and you are at the stage of forming, then of course all the cohorts going forward who would hear of Moonshot competition, and if that comes in their priority, they can have the discussion either among their team that this is something that would likely come up. So how would the dynamics work? Either that would happen, or you can have an individual. I mean, there are individuals who do their capstone project. So that could be another option, But in case if you have already gone through the capstone project, then probably you have the options as we explained earlier.
Thank you for that.
Sure, welcome.
And I just wanted to follow up, Delon. Wonderful questions. Those were the same questions that I have been pondering from time to time, and I think it provides a lot of clarity for people on the call. So thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Okay.
Can I just ask one question, Dr. Mishra, just following up that last point?
Okay,
it's a quick one. You may not be able to help, but just for those of us looking at the capstone, this moonshot thing will influence the way we think about that now, as the colleagues on the call said. Are you able to guide us typically what portion of a cohort are awarded 5 out of 5 for both project and presentation?
What makes them get 5 out of 5? Is that your question?
No, not what makes them get. Just what percentage of candidates in a cohort typically gets 5 and 5?
Okay. Now that is a question perhaps the team at Quantic would be able to derive. I cannot tell you offhand.
I'll send a question.
But it's a significant percent. It's a significant. I can't give you a number or percentage, but at least the numbers that I have seen, there is a good number of students and their projects which get 5 out of 5.
Good. It's a function of the prize money then, in other words. Thank you. No worries.
Sure.
Dr. Mishra, thank you for hosting this session. My name is Sam. I have a quick follow-up question. So since there is the gap or a delay between actually getting awarded from the time when someone is chosen as the winner, will the winning team still receive the prize money if a similar business idea pops up in the middle and is already, a functional business? Let's say like a competitor comes up with a similar idea and is functional.
Okay, so are you saying that the idea, your venture idea itself could go through some sort of a changes along the process? Is that what you're concerned about due to the competition?
Not exactly. So let's say like there is not much competition in the field, and between the time that a team is declared a winner and it actually gets the prize money, another competitor comes up, regardless of Quantic or not, and starts their business. Like it's out there. Will the winning team still be funded the money that was promised now that there is an existing competitor in the field?
Now, this is, I would say, a very sophisticated question, and it's a little hypothetical as well, that what if kind of a question. I would say, as long as at the time of the decision, it does not appear that some sort of going forward, because you can imagine that all those 3 eligibility criteria are very reasonable, and for Quantic, they cannot fund their own competition into the future per se, if it is known ahead in time. But down the line, if anything happens, I think that is a bit hypothetical. It's hard to address that and say anything about it now.
Sure, I understand. Thank you.
Sure. The prize money would still be, I would say, given. Prize money is not an issue, but investment is a little different ball game. Investment means you'd be a part of the venture's future for a long period of time. So that could create some issue for the venture as well as for anybody which has invested.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Hi, Dr. Mishra. This is Ahmed Al-Rabi.
Hello,
Just a
Ahmed.
question about the timeline. Now, I know the amount of funding is still under deliberation, Can you please place it as a top priority to define a timeline for the assessment and the awards and publish that as soon as possible? Because it also factors in, we mentioned it's possibly happening in 2023. Are we looking first quarter, second quarter? When is it happening? The timeline would factor in. And as some of the colleagues have mentioned, if it's a viable business idea, market conditions can change drastically in a year and a half. So all my research and work is based on information I have right now. I will submit my project in a month or two, and then, a year and a half later, conditions can change. So just defining a timeline, please, if you can place that as a priority.
Yes, I would definitely convey that to my colleagues to come up with a number sooner and inform you. I can understand because the situations are very dynamic in the venture world, in the startup world, and entrepreneurial world, and so earlier these numbers. But I would just add one thing: is any venture which is out there, they are not necessarily dependent on just one source of funding. They are. In my startup, we took part in various competition, simultaneously, including the one which was organized by my institution. So that is another, not going with the complete dependence, but also exploring other possibilities. And if you're eligible, you get the favorable outcome for yourself along this process as well. Does that address, Ahmed, your concern?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Other questions, please?
By the way, we enjoyed the slides earlier that you showed. Are you going to share those afterwards?
Yes, I would be sharing the recording of the session as well as the slides with you.
Thanks.
Welcome.
I have one last question. Can we get probably a preview of the previously submitted ideas?
Preview of the previously submitted. This is the first time that Quantic is taking up this initiative. So there is no precedence to this that we can share. Even otherwise, I think anything which is public that can be shared. Definitely, once you participate in this competition, unlike the capstone project, where the complete confidentiality is maintained by Quantic, when they're evaluating their curriculum. But once you participate, any reasonable transparency comes across. The investors can ask you questions, evaluators can ask you those questions, and you would yourself want to put it out there in your pitching. So, Amar, sorry, I don't think we have any past pitching which we can share with you, except in some sessions maybe we can share some of those pitches which have been made. We have the permission for, right? So we can give you an idea of what goes into pitching. Does that address your concern?
Yes, thank you very much. I understand the concerns too.
You're welcome. Okay, folks. Anybody else? We have a few minutes left.
Hello, Dr. Mishra. This is Satish.
Yes, Satish.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question with regards to building a startup, but not necessarily about the moonshot. Is there some kind of a team that is set up within Quantic that can kind of help guide startup idea, which is probably still in the stages of forming and in the ideation phase?
Right.
It's not necessarily part of the Quantic project.
I think that's a very, very good idea. I would say it's such good advice also. And we actually want to go in those lines. we are discussing that how to support our students with their journey, entrepreneurial journey, right? In multiple ways. And it need not be limited to only the competition, but outside the scope of it. That conversation is happening, and it may take some shape and form. But I would advise Satish that feel free to connect and talk about your idea. Maybe we have several faculty who are themselves very entrepreneurial in nature, uh, and we also have several experts. We also are connected with the ecosystem. So in case if there are any specific aspects of advisory that you need, you just have to come forth and express it, and we will do the best we can.
And who do I connect with to take this forward?
So you can send an email on that same email address which I had, for Moonshot. You can use that.
Oh, Moonshot.
Or you can help. You can use Help Scout to ask that.
Thanks so much.
Sure. Okay, folks. So I think we have run out of time. Even though, if anybody has a last question.
Look, I was just going to ask very quickly that the slides which you'll be sharing, would those be shared via an Excel file? Because normally when we have this kind of sessions, there's an Excel file where people put in their names, or everybody who's joined would get a copy of the slides and the video.
You would get the link of the slides, right, and the video. So is that your concern? Everybody
yes,
would
that's
get it. Yes.
awesome.
Anybody who's attended this. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Mishra. I was wondering if you could have an FAQ put together, because there's a long list of questions in the chat, so we could read through it on our own time.
Perfect. We have already, Ipsita, thank you for bringing that up, and we are working on FAQ. It's getting more and more comprehensive. In fact, some of your great questions and difficult questions that come to us, we go back and jot them down and seek those answers and put it in the FAQ, and we will talk among ourselves to put it up so that you have access to it. Is that okay? Hello?
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so folks, here we end our session today. I know many of you had questions and we needed more time. Probably we could have spent a little bit more time initially beyond presentation, but those also had to be specified so that you have some initial understanding, so that you could ask questions on top of that. But I would say, in general, it's an initiative. It is taking shape, and it would become successful with your participation, and you also resonating with the spirit. That we want to, going into the future, maybe some of these things would get better shaped. And some of your concerns, which may not be possible at this point. But as people have more clarity on Moonshot and its intent and its mission, you would see that depending on what you want to pursue going into the future, you could align with it very well as an alumni, as a current student working on the project. So very, very many possibilities could happen. And so it was only an introduction, and I know that you still have many questions, but do send an email about it, and we will try to address through that. And if necessary, we could organize another session to take more questions. Okay, you can put in that request as well. Thank you, folks. Good talking to you. Good being with you, and all the best. And we look forward to your competition. Look at the eligibility criteria. Talk to your team and be a part of it. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.